How you doing? My name is Christopher Brown, and you're now listening to my podcast, First Off with Chris, and this is episode 35. The seeding games are now all complete. Saturday, we had the play-in tournament featuring the Blazers and the Grizzlies. You know, the fight to see who would get into the 8th seed to get into the playoffs. And as I predicted, the Blazers got in, beating the Grizzlies 126-122. It was a very good game, very back and forth game. The Grizzlies did not go out with a fight. Ja Morant had 35 and 8 assists. Dude took over in the second half. Had a very pedestrian first half, but the second half he went off. Valanciunas gave you 22, 17, and 6. He had a great second quarter. Brooks gave you 20. Clark off the bench gave you 20. Only dude off the bench to give you double figures. Clark is the guy that you need on the team. Brandon Clark, another rookie from Gonzaga. You know, they have two good rookies. Ja Morant, the star, but Clark is the guy you need on your team. Like I said, 20 points. He had some clutch threes. He had a lot of clutch blocks. Dude is a baller. He's a glue guy. You look at the Trailblazers, Lillard had 31 and 10. Balling. Hitting a lot of clutch shots. Yeah, I know he shot 5 for 14 from the 3, but he was 14-14 from the free throw line. That means he was getting to the paint, drawing fouls, being aggressive like he usually is. McCollum had 29 buckets. Carmelo had 21. Carmelo has been very consistent throughout this bubble now. Yeah, I know he shot bad. A lot of people in this game shot bad, but 10 for 10 from the free throw line. You know, he was being aggressive. Yusuf Nurkic gave you 22 and 21. 6 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Dude was balling out there. 2 for 3 from the three-point line. Yusuf Nurkic is the real deal, man. I believe he's the top 10 center when healthy. Top 10 center. He gave you 22, 21. With two three-pointers. Yeah. The Blazers, very good game to the Grizzlies. Get ready for next year. But also, since the seeding games are over, the NBA finally gave out their bubble awards. I think it was perfect what the NBA did, giving out these bubble awards, because this was like a mini season. And there was a drop-off when it comes to production. Some players had great games, all 8 seeding games. Some were either inconsistent or flat out unperformed. Either way, giving out these awards is the best thing they could have did, and I love it. And now most of my predictions who received these awards were right. Dame Lillard rightfully won the MVP award as he led his team to the 8th seed, then into the playoffs. 8th seed for the play-in tournament. That means they only needed 1 win. The Grizzlies would have needed 2 wins to get into the playoffs. That's why it's so important for the race to 8th. Dame Lillard got the Trailblazers there. Now they're in the playoffs. He's the unanimous selection among the 22 members who voted on the awards. Devin Booker was second in MVP vote with 19 second-place votes. Man, he had a great bubble. He led his Phoenix Suns team to the only team in the bubble to go 8-0. So if he won an award, nobody could have argued. They were so far behind, though. That's why they didn't get a chance to get into the play-in tournament. Nobody expecting them to go 8-0. So shout out to the Suns. Now the all first bubble team wasn't a surprise. I just didn't know that they weren't going to have a big man on there. If I knew that it was no, big man restriction, then my list would have looked just like this. You got Dame Lillard, rightfully so. Devin Booker, rightfully so. Luka, rightfully so. TJ Warren, rightfully so. Then they had James Harden. Now, I was thinking about putting James Harden in my first team, but I didn't know if I wanted to put him above Luka. No, it wasn't Luka. Put him above Devin Booker. But I have to give credit to Devin Booker leading his team to 8-0. That's why I didn't have James Harden in there. Then I was thinking, I don't think they're going to have a first team list without a big man. So if I knew that, James would have been in my first team. But James deserves to be in there. Dude's averaging 34, 9 and 9 with over 2 steals. James was balling. Hitting threes, getting into the free throw line, getting to the paint. Nobody seems to take mid-ranges no more. He shot less than 30 mid-ranges in the entire season. But you see the production he puts up. Now, second team on bubble, you had Giannis, Kawhi Leonard, Kristaps Porzingis, Karis LeVert, and Michael Porter Jr. Now, I'm really surprised that they put MPJ Jr. in here. They showed him some love. I'm surprised about that, but he did deserve it. Had a 4-game stretch in the bubble where he was averaging 30 points, 12 rebounds, shooting over 50% from the field, and 50% from the free throw line. From the 3-point line. The dude is a baller. I keep saying this, man. He's a baller and he's a difference maker. Don't be surprised if the Nuggets going to run. He's a big part of it. He's a mismatch on the court. You know, he can play any position on the court, to be honest with you. In this small ball era, he can come in and play the 5. He's most likely not to, but he can play the 1 through 4, especially the 2 through 4. Dude can flat out score the ball. He's 6'10", 6'11", can do anything out there in the court. Now, everybody deserves to be on that list right there. Karis LeVert balled out. Kristaps definitely balled out. Kawhi did his thing. And you know Giannis always does his thing. Now, Coach of the Year, Monty Williams. Coach of the Bubble, Monty Williams. He deserved it. Coached his team to the only 8-0 record. Now, when I had my list of people who deserved it, it was all people that was fighting to get into the bubble. All of them. But Monty Williams, out of everybody, deserved that award way more. Coached a team that nobody thought would go 8-0 because I didn't. I had them winning 3 games at max, but they went 8-0. He deserved that award, and Devin Booker deserved to be first team all bubble. So shout out to Book and shout out to Monty Williams. Now some things I noticed for some teams that were in a bubble, right? For the New Orleans Pelicans. Y'all really fired Alvin Gentry. And I had a strong feeling that this would happen if they didn't make the playoffs. They would blame it on the coach. You know. It's obvious they wanted to get him out of there. But it's not fair. You gave them 1 year with this team. This very talented team. You didn't give him a shot to try to make it happen. You know, it's unfair to him that y'all sat out Zion when y'all could have played him in key moments and key games to help get into the play-in tournament to get into the playoffs. Now, it's not all on the Pelicans organization for sending out Zion. Most of the blame goes on him. He came out there out of shape. You know, I'm not going to hold back no more. I'm a big fan of Zion. A very big fan of Zion since high school. But if you looked at him outside, if you looked at him on the court, he was the only player that looked out of shape out of everybody that was in the bubble. The only player that looked out of shape. He is dominant. When he's on the court, he's dominant. But the problem is he's not always on the court. He needs to lose weight to help better his game. Charles Barkley was a beast coming out of college. He didn't get into his prime until he started losing weight. Once he started losing weight, he was unguardable. Once Zion loses, people are saying 40 pounds, at least 20. Start off with 20 and see the difference. Because he's putting too much stress on his knees. If he's out there at 280 pounds, because that's what it looks like. It looked like he did not lose no weight and then not get in no condition. So all the pictures that the Pelicans were posting, all this bragging, they did it for no reason because they was capping out there. Because Zion looked out of shape. He did not look healthy. He looked like a lot of things were bothering him. So I understand why they sat him. But man, you just gotta play him at sometimes. If he's out of shape, that's on him. It's not on y'all. Somebody in that organization needs to say, Zion, for you to be at your best, for this team to be at its best, you have to lose weight. Whether that's a team captain, whether that's the new coach, whether that's the GM, the president, doesn't matter. Somebody needs to tell him. Because I'm sure he's hearing it a lot. He needs to drop at least 20 pounds. Start off with 20. You'll see a big difference. Well, firing the coach, Alvin Gentry, it's just not fair. I'm a Lonzo fan. Lonzo played terrible in the bubble. He played terrible. Couldn't hit a shot. You know, defense was suspect at times. Yes, he's always going to be a playmaker and get in there with rebounds, but at the end of the day, you cannot be missing point-blank shots like that. He was shooting terrible. Terrible. Drew Holiday, he did his thing most of the bubble. You know, he did his thing. Brandon Ingram was somewhat inconsistent throughout the bubble. He had games where he was on, he had games he was off. JJ Redick did his thing the entire bubble. Like, the veterans did their thing. You can't blame it all on the coach because the players just weren't performing at their best. Now, the only way that they can justify this is that Griffin gets his guy Ty Lue after the year. Now, if he gets Ty Lue, then all will be forgiven because you went out and you got your guy. But if you don't get a coach that's better than Alvin Gentry, then what you fire him for? Because you can't really blame the season on him. A lot of players were injured throughout the season. The main guy that you put your franchise's hands into, aka Zion, was injured the entire season. Zion was not at his best form the entire season. I would have gave him another shot, with Zion in shape, with this roster, with this core coming back. I would have gave him one more shot. But I guess the organization thought, let's go out and try to get Ty Lue. Because that's Griffin's guy. Together in Cleveland. That's Griffin's guy. So, Pelicans, I hope they get it right because they have one of the best, if not the best young core in the league right now. And it's scary if they get it right. But it's all on Zion, to be honest with you. He's the difference maker for that team. And the thing I noticed, for another team, the Philadelphia 76ers, is that we need to get rid of Brent Brown immediately. He has to go. He has to go. Dude cannot coach. He does not put our players in the best position to succeed. I've been saying this all year. Y'all been hearing me say it on this podcast. Brent Brown is not the head coach for the Philadelphia 76ers. He's not. He's not. And it sucks if the Sixers organization uses Ben Simmons being injured as a reason not to fire him, to say, oh, he didn't have all his weapons. That's BS, because he had the best roster, starting five-wise, last year. We have 5 guys that could each average over 20. I don't think any NBA roster had that, starting 5, but us. And he fumbled that bag. So, I don't hear no excuses, none whatsoever. Sixers need a new head coach. Joel Embiid also needs to drop 10 to 15 pounds just so he can stay healthy more, because he's going to be playing a lot of minutes. He can't be out there tired, 4 minutes into the quarter. He can't. Joel Embiid's a mismatch. Nobody in this league can guard him, in my opinion, when he flips the switch and wants to be aggressive. So, we need a new head coach. We need to keep this roster somewhat intact, because everybody plays good at times. We just need them to play good together. Alec Burks, Glenn Robinson, 2 major pieces that I love. But other than Alec Burks, Glenn Robinson, I don't see the coach playing him where he needs to be played. He can be a two-way player. He can be a guy that can get to the basket. He can be a guy that shoot threes. But I don't see him getting put in that position. Matisse Thybulle, he needs to be put in better situations. Yeah, we use him as a defender. That's cool. That's what we need to be doing, but we need to be playing him more, especially throughout the playoffs. Raul Neto had one good game. I'm still not impressed by him at all. At all. I don't think he does anything at all. He only does good when the games don't matter. Still not impressed by him. Shake, I'm definitely not impressed by Shake. One thing that I noticed, like I said from the jump, he should have not been starting. Well, now he has to start because Ben Simmons is injured. But if Ben Simmons was healthy, I did not want him starting. And I said this when I predicted the Sixers lineup. I said, please bring Shake off the bench so he can be most effective. He has not been effective throughout this entire bubble. His defense has been shaky. His offense has been terrible, very inconsistent. The dude just flat out is not a starter. At least not for right now. He has some things to still work on. Off the bench, I feel like he'd have been able to score. His mind wouldn't be, I don't know what it is. I just think he personally wasn't ready to start. Off the bench would have been better for him. He wouldn't be playing with a whole bunch of stars just yet. Off the bench, he'd have been able to focus on getting his shot, getting his team shot, without playing with Embiid, Simmons, Tobias Harris. Because you talking about guys with experience. That's why I didn't want him to start. It had been him and Al Horford coming off the bench with Thybulle, with Korkmaz, with Burks. That backup starting 5 that I just named is dangerous. Shake, Burks, Korkmaz, Horford, Thybulle. shooters, defenders. A power forward, well, he'd have been playing center in that backup lineup. Al Horford, that can be a playmaker when Shake wants to go get his. Is a veteran guy that would have helped Shake out. But we threw Shake into the fire. He just underperformed. Badly. He underperformed badly, man. Now, another team, some things I noticed. The Grizzlies. They didn't get into the playoffs. They were the AC coming in, ended up the ninth. Lost to the Trailblazers in a play-in tournament. Man, the Grizzlies are legit. John Morant's only going to get better. Only going to get better. The only things he really has to work on is the shooting. It's not that he can't shoot, just shoot it more consistently. He can get to the paint with ease. Dunk on whoever he wants to dunk on. So now, you got the three-point game you got to work on. He get his pull-up midi right, that floater right. Because they're going to think you're going to stop. They think you're going to go and try to dunk on him. Stop at a dime. Wide open pull-up midi, wide open floater. Dude is dangerous. Dangerous. What he did, second half against the Blazers, is how he's going to be for the rest of his career. On go mode, on attack mode, the entire time. You give them Jaren Jackson Jr. back, because he is a special talent. You're talking about a power forward that shoots like a guard, that can defend almost any position on the court. Very good rim protector. You just keep surrounding them two with pieces. I love Brandon Clark coming off the bench. Energy guy that just does all the dirty work. You got Grayson Allen. He needs to keep improving on his game because he only had 3 points, almost 20 minutes against the Blazers. That was his, only bad game so far in the bubble. You keep surrounding them with pieces. Now you got to get some veterans with them. You add some veterans, Dylan Brooks, he keeps breaking out his game to be more efficient. So you keep adding some more veterans because you look at his lineup, they just need that small forward. You add a good small forward with them, and it's a wrap. It's a wrap. The Grizzlies will be a legit playoff contender going into next year. No doubt in my mind. If you are wondering how to create a podcast like the one you're listening to now, I'm about to explain to you the best way to do so. And that is using a platform called Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to start a podcast. I'm going to explain to you why. First and foremost, it's free. Secondly, there's creation tools that will allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will also distribute your podcast so it can be heard on different platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from the podcast with no minimum learnership. It's everything you need to create a podcast all in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. So now that the seeding games are over, the playoffs begin today, Monday, first round. Now the games are going to be played every other day. So you got games playing today, then the next tomorrow, then the next day. It's going to be good basketball every day. I'm not complaining. I'm going to be glued to the TV all day long when I'm not obviously in school and stuff. But that's besides the point. In the East, the matchups are the Bucks versus the Magic, the Raptors versus the Nets, the Celtics versus the Sixers, and the Heat versus the Pacers. Now, when it comes to the Bucks versus the Magic, there's nothing to discuss. Easy first round matchup for the Bucks. The Bucks bench is just as good as the Magic starting lineup. But don't get it wrong. The Magic aren't complete scrubs. They play basketball the right way. They don't turn the ball over. They don't foul. The thing is, though, their offense is horrendous and their defense is suspect. And they lack star players. They have good players, but they don't have star ones. They got Vucevic. Guy gives you a double-double, almost 20 and 10. Evan Fournier, he's a good scorer. Aaron Gordon, I don't know if he's still hurt or not, but he's a good player. They lost Jonathan Isaac, who in my opinion, was going to be a guy in this league. 6'10", 6'11" defender who offensive game was just starting to turn around. But they're missing a guy like him who obviously would have guarded Giannis. And in my opinion, he would have held his own. I honestly would have loved to see that matchup. I'd have loved to see that matchup. But like I said, they lack star power. They got my guy Markelle Fultz, who's making his, way back into the league, solidify his name again. But he's not playing to the expectation level that we thought he was coming out of college. So at the end of the day, they're lacking star power, and the Bucks are going to sweep them. Now the Raptors versus the Nets is going to be a pretty interesting series. I do think the Raptors will win though. But the Nets are pretty good. They've been playing real good in the bubble, and they're going to cause them some trouble. The Nets went 5-3 in the bubble, and they lost 2 games, which are very close games. Even without the best players. I'm not even talking about Kyrie and KD. They're still playing with guys who are in their usual rotation majority of the time in the season, but are not there now. They're still playing really good. They're playing aggressive with a win-now mentality. I do think the Nets will be able to sneak 1, maybe 2 games. Right now, I'm really going on 1. I think the Raptors are going to win in 5, though. Their defense is off the charts. You got a great head coach, players who know their role. Got Marc Gasol, veteran. Serge Ibaka, veteran. Kyle Lowry, veteran. 3 guys who take pride on the defensive end. 3 veterans with great leadership. Kyle Lowry, the guy on that team. I know everybody talking about Pascal Siakam, and I'm going to get to him, but Kyle Lowry is the heartbeat of that team. Defender. Guy who can score, get his teammates involved. Hell of a player. I'm starting to put more respect on his name because he had some bad playoff, performances for years and years and years. But things are now starting to come around, so I'm going to start putting more respect on Kyle Lowry's name. You got a guy like Fran VanVleet inserted into the starting lineup. That backcourt, yeah, they might be small, but they're scrappy. They're going to do what has to be done in order for them to win games. And you got Pascal Siakam, a guy who can be the franchise guy. His offense is starting to come around. Defense really good. Shooting is starting to come around. He's getting better and better each game. So it's going to be nice to see him, his first playoff series where he is kind of the guy. Kyle Lowry's, the guy. But Pascal Siakam is that guy for them. He also got OG, Anunoby, a guy coming into his own, young guy, defender, offense is starting to get there. The Raptors are a very good team. They might lack, the name guys after Kawhi Leonard lost, but they got a lot of guys who just know their role. And when you got players that know their role and a great head coach, like I said, their defense is amazing. That can be a scary team that nobody wants to see. So I do think they'll beat the Nets in 5. The Nets have been playing good. They beat some playoff teams. So I think they'll be able to sneak 1, maybe 2 in, but my heart's sticking to 1. But yeah, Raptors going to control that series through and through. Now next, you got the Celtics versus the Sixers. Now everybody knows I'm a Sixers fan. I'm going to try to be as realistic as possible. I am. In my opinion, the Sixers would have won this series with the healthy Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons' defense has improved a lot this season. A lot. He's a guy that will lock down your team's best player. I don't even care what position it is. Right? Josh Richardson's defense has been so-so, but I feel like he did a good job this series. Then we have Thibault. Then we got a player like Glenn Robinson. So we got guys that can guard wings. But without Ben Simmons, it's going to be hard for the Sixers to pull this victory. I'm going to be honest. He was a mismatch, in my opinion, for them. He was. Without him, it's going to be tough. It's all on Joel Embiid. Nobody on that team can guard him. I don't even think it's a play in the league. It might be some guys that can give him, some challenges. But when he flips the switch and becomes aggressive, not a guy that's shooting 1,000 jump shots, but he dominates in the paint and then start bringing his game out. Don't start outside. Don't start chucking up threes. Go in the paint, build your confidence up. Then pull it out to the 3-point line, to the mid-range, Then start doing your post fadeaways. But you got to assert your dominance in the paint first because Theis can't touch you. And his Cantor cannot touch you. Those are the only 2 big men. They put tackle fall on you. Too weak. Nobody on this Celtics team can hold him. I think that was a big reason why we got Al Horford, because Al Horford was one of the ones, honestly, I think the only one in the East that can really give him trouble. He can really give him trouble. He's giving them the most trouble, if you want to be honest. So I think that might have been a big reason why we got him from the Celtics. So if that's the case, Embiid needs to eat. Without Ben Simmons, this is all on Embiid. All on Embiid. He needs to average at least 30 and 13, to be honest. He needs to get to the free throw line a lot. He needs to be dominant in the paint. Get them guys in foul trouble. That's what the Sixers, are going to need. They're going to need Tobias Harris to be productive and efficient. He has to be scoring at least 25 now in the playoffs. Without Ben, he needs to score at least 25 because Shake hasn't been playing good enough. Hopefully he plays good in this playoffs. Hopefully we need him to have a fighting chance. We need him to play good, but we need Tobias to score at least 25. He needs to be, he's already second leading scorer, but he needs to go from 20 to 25. He needs to. Josh Richardson, he had an aggressive game. He had one aggressive game. He needs to be like that all the time. He needs to. I'm not saying he has to shoot 30 shots, but he needs to be aggressive in the shot and in the shot taking. Because when he's aggressive, that only helps out the entire team. When you're aggressive, when you're on, when you drive to the paint, that means players are going to help more. When you're not on, they're going to let you do that floater that you do. They're going to test it out. They're going to see if you try to pass out. But if you're aggressive in your shot, it's only going to help you and your teammates. So be aggressive. Then off the bench, we need Thibault to come in. I don't even think he's coming off the bench. I hope he starts. In my opinion, when you got a team like this that has all these forwards, right? Tatum, Brown, Hayward. You need Thibault in your lineup. They also have Kemba Walker, who's a guard who can get buckets. You need a guy in your lineup that has a flat-out defender. Because they got 4 guys in their starting lineup that can get 20 with their eyes closed. Hayward was getting 20 before the injury. Those other 3 guys are averaging 20. So you need a guy like Thibault, who is strictly defense, to be on either one of them. I don't care which one it is. It's probably going to be Tatum because Tatum is the best scorer right now. I don't want to say the best because I like Jaylen Brown. I like Jaylen Brown. His game has been improving a lot. But Thibault has to be the guy in this starting lineup. That's our lockdown defender for the Sixers in order for us to have a chance. Al Horford off the bench. He's the nominate. He's going to be going up against Enes Kanter. He might come in and play some starter minutes. In his veteran leadership, he needs to show right now. He needs to show. He needs to be able to hit his shot. He doesn't have to go overly aggressive in the paint, but he has to do something. He has to do something to prove his worth. We need Korkmaz to hit his shots. You cannot play defense. We know that. Your defense is terrible. So hit your 3-point shots. We need Alec Burks to do what you've been doing since you stepped into the league, getting buckets. Getting buckets. That's all we need you to do off the bench. Give me at least 10. Glenn Robinson, if they're going to play him this series, if he's healthy, play him. He has production. He is production. He's a guy that can defend, hit threes, get to the rim. If you have to play Neto, don't overly play him. The dude's trash, in my opinion. Now, if he's playing good in this series, then go with that. Go with what works. There's a lot of things that work that I don't think Brent Brown has tried to put out on the court. This is the series that we need him to do that. I don't want to get out in the first round. Now, I have this thing going 6 or 7 either way. I explained the Sixers side. Now, with the Celtics side, they got 4 guys, like I said, that can get 20. You got Jason Tatum, who's coming to his own. Not a superstar just yet. He's a star. Jaylen Brown is coming into his own. Very underrated, in my opinion. Kemba Walker, still a guy that can get you 20. Gordon Hayward is finding his role in his team. You got Theis. For right now, their center just fits well with them. But off the bench, you got Marcus Smart. For some reason, against the Sixers, he always hits his shots. But I like Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart is a guy that you need on your team. He gives you that dog factor, a defender. He's a guard that can still score when he puts his mind into it, when he doesn't shoot dumb shots. Right? Their bench plays their roles to perfection. And they have a hell of a coach in Brad Stevens, who's a 55, 100, 150 times better coach than Brent Brown. So this is what this series is going to come down to. It's going to come down to coaching. And obviously, Stevens is the better coach. But the Sixers had talent to match up even without Ben Simmons. They have talent to match up if they play to their abilities. They're so inconsistent, it scares me. But the fact that Embiid can be unguardable in this series, the fact that Tobias Harris can still get his own in this series, the fact that Alec Burks has been playing so well off the bench, my trust I'm giving to Josh Richardson. You know, Korkmaz's ability to hit the three. Al Horford veteran leadership. That's why I'm saying this can go 6 or 7. I know a lot of people are going to say it's over in 5. No way. No way this series is over in 5. It could go 6 or 7 either way. This is a tough one. My heart is telling me to go with the Sixers. Now, will I be surprised if the Sixers lose? No, I will not. But if you look at the players, the Sixers still without Ben Simmons can match up with this Celtics team well. That's why I think it's going to go 6 or 7. Now, 4 or 5 matchup. You had the Heat versus the Pacers. I got the Heat in 6. I do. The Pacers, for some reason, just don't play well against the Heat. Especially T.J. Warren. I don't know if Jimmy Butler has got into his head, but it's like, dude, he was going off the entire bubble. And as soon as you go against the guy who you was beefing with in January, who called you out, you fold. Now, do I think he will fold for an entire playoff matchup? No, I do not. Do I think Victor Oladipo will start playing better? Yes, I do. With Malcolm Brogdon coming back, do I think it's going to be crucial for them to have a chance? Yes, I do. But the Heat team, in my opinion, is better coached. Their defense is better. Their players are better. And their players play better in their role. Now, you look at this Heat team. You got Jimmy Butler. He doesn't even have to be the leading scorer at times. He doesn't even have to take 20 shots to get his 20 points like a lot of people in this league who call themselves superstars. He's a guy who can get to the free throw line, who can get to the paint. Everybody knows he's been shooting terrible, but he's still going to get his 20. He's still going to get his team involved. He's going to get to the free throw line, and he's going to clamp you up on the defensive end. Then you got another all-star, Bam Adebayo, who I feel like is going to dominate this matchup. He's going to dominate. Miles Turner is a guy that swear he's a guard. He might as well be 6'5" because it's like he hates being in the paint. He hates being in the paint. It just makes no sense. He could be 20 times better than what he is if he just steps into the paint, but he doesn't want to. So I think Bam is going to dominate him. He's going to dominate him. Bam might average 20 and 10 in this series. Right? Tyler Hero off the bench. We got Iggy coming off the bench. Dragic coming off the bench. They have a very good bench. They got players who know their role. Duncan Robinson, their shooter. He knows his role. None knows his role. This team is full of guys that know their role, playing for a great head coach in a great organization. The Heat will win in 6. The Pacers are going to get some games now. They have been playing well in the bubble. T.J. Warren, despite his bad performance against them, he still was averaging over 30 in this bubble. So they will be able to be competitive. I think all games are going to be close. I don't see any blowouts in this series. All very close matchups. But I still have the Heat winning in 6. Now on to the Western Conference. You have the Lakers versus the Blazers, Clippers versus the Mavericks, Nuggets versus the Jazz, and Rockets versus the Thunder. Now, I have the Lakers versus the Blazers. I have the Lakers winning about 5 or 6. Blazers are going to be able to win a game or two because how dynamic their backcourt are. The Lakers lost their defending guards in Rondo and Bradley, 2 guys who were there to defend the opposing team's best guards. If they had them two right now, it could honestly be a sweep. But the Lakers really don't have a guy who can really go out and shut down a guard. You got Caldwell Pope, you got Danny Green, but they weren't as quick and as agile as Bradley and Rondo. So I do think the Blazers are going to be able to win some games off the fact that how good they've been playing, how good their lineup is. But when it comes to the Blazers and their defense, it's just bad at times, man. It's just bad. Teams can go off for 15, go on a 16-1 run, a 20-3 run, 20-5 run against this Blazers team. And it's just unacceptable. It's unacceptable. That's why a lot of their games were close in this bubble. Their offense is out of this world. You got Dame, you got CJ who can go off for 50 any game they want, especially Dame. CJ's playing with a bad back, but he's still playing almost 40 minutes a night. It feels like more than that. It's still giving you 20 to 30 points. You got Melo, who's clutch shots he's been hitting in this bubble. Going against his man's Brian. I know he's going to go out and perform his best. He's going to leave it all in the court. You got Nurkic. Hopefully Zach Collins is healthy, because that's going to be big. But you got Nurkic. You got Whiteside. You got Gary Trent coming off the bench, their best defender. And guys who've been hitting three at a high rate. But like I said, their defense has been bad. And I said Gary Trent is their best defender, but there's no way he can guard LeBron. They don't have a guy who can really go out and guard LeBron. They're going to throw Melo at him. I think LeBron's going to have his way with Melo. It's not going to be easy, because everybody knows when you go against your friend, you always do well. So I think Melo's going to hold his own. Especially when it comes to LeBron in the paint trying to post up. I feel like Melo can hold his own. But there's no way Melo's going to be able to hold LeBron. Then they're going to throw Mario Hezonja on him. Dominate. They're going to throw Nasir Little on him. If he even plays, dominate. That's what LeBron's going to do. Dominate. And then when it comes to Anthony Davis, he's also a mismatch. Whiteside, too slow. Nurkic, too slow. They're very good paint defenders, both of them. But Anthony Davis' game is more than just being in the paint. He has the ability to create his own shot off the dribble. He has the ability to shoot. If he's out there at the three-point line, he catches it and they close out too hard, he'll pump it and go right around him. So Zach Collins, if he's healthy, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets that matchup. Gabriel coming off the bench, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets that matchup. Now, do I think Nurkic can hold his own a little bit more than Whiteside? Yes, I do. That's why Nurkic is starting. He's a better overall player than Whiteside. So maybe Nurkic can hold his own a little bit, but it's going to be tough because Anthony Davis can score outside the paint. So it's going to be tough for the Blazers to guard him. Now, do I think it's going to be a great matchup? Yes, I do. But I see the Lakers controlling it, winning in 5 or 6. Now, for the Lakers, it's going to be key that they get guys like Dion Waiters involved heavy, Quinn Cook involved heavy, Caruso involved heavy, Kuzma involved heavy, Caldwell Pope, Danny Green need to find their shots. Quinn Cook, J.R. Smith, all their role players. It's going to be important for them to have very good series and get their confidence down. Because against this team, against this Blazers team, they're guard heavy. So the Lakers might be throwing out some different guards. But it's their first round. And everybody knows the West playoffs are hard every single round. So it's going to be important for these role guys, including even AD and LeBron. I know they're not role guys, but since they're superstars, they're going to still have to be able to find their rhythm, their shot, their confidence. It's going to be, scratch that. This is going to be important for the entire Lakers team to make sure they have their confidence, rhythm, their shot, everything after this first round, because it's only going to get tough after this. Now the next matchup, Clippers, Mavericks. I see this going 6 or 7. Clippers winning. You know, the Clippers right now, you can argue they're the best organization in this league. I'm going to break it down to you. They have a great owner. They also have a great GM, a great head coach and coaching staff. So a lot of people on that coaching staff that can go out and become head coaches. They already have a former head coach on that coaching staff that won a championship. So they have a great coaching staff. Then they have a great roster. A great roster. You got 2 guys who can be MVP candidates every year when they're fully healthy, and when they play on separate teams. Both MVP candidates. You know, a guy that's won multiple championships to lead the team. A guy in Paul George who's proven himself to be one of the best players in this league. Without a doubt. I know Paul George get a lot of flack, and I give him some. But at the end of the day, he's a two-way player that can dominate on both ends of the court. Then you have Pat Bev. You got Lou Will, Montrez, Shamet, Reggie Jackson, Zubac, Morris. They just have players. They got a full roster. They can go. They can play their entire roster and still win games. They can play just their bench and still win games. But when you look at the Mavericks, they have one of the best offenses to ever play in the NBA. Now, I understand that the Clippers have great defenders. They do. Kawhi, Paul George, Morris, Pat Bev, Reggie Jackson go and compete on defense. Yeah, I understand they got some great defenders. But none of them can hold Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps has been playing like a number 1 option. Even though he's the second best player, he's been playing like a number 1 option. And that's why his points per game has went up double digits from the regular season pre-bubble to now. Because he's been playing so aggressive on both ends of the court too. Very, very aggressive. Now, he's fouled out a lot in these seeding games. He cannot do that against the Clippers if the Mavs win a chance. But he's been playing so aggressive, man. Nobody on that Clippers team can hold him. He's like 7'3", if I believe. 7'3", if I believe. Can shoot. Can dominate the paint when he puts his mind to it. Dude is a mismatch on the court. And if the Mavs win a chance, they're going to have to go through him. They're going to have to go through him. Now, when it comes to Luka, Luka is going to be able to get his regardless. And if he can't get his, he'll end up with 20 assists. Because he gets his teammates involved. If he gets to the paint, he'll find an open man. Pick and roll, he'll find an open man. Luka will make the best basketball play 9 times out of 10. It's going to be hard for him, though, because they have defenders. They're going to throw a lot of guys at him. But do I think he's going to get his own? Yes. He's going to get to the free throw line. He's going to get to the paint. He's going to hit shots when he needs to hit shots. But this Mavs team is more than 2 players. So players like Seth Curry, he has to step up. He has to hit threes for them. He's one of the best three-point shooters in the league. He has to hit threes for them. Now, yes, he's more than a three-point shooter. He can score off the dribble, score in the mid-range, get to the paint, yes. But at the end of the day, he has to hit shots. Especially the three-point shots. Tim Hardaway Jr., Mavs organization say, oh, we got a big 3. Tim Hardaway's a part of that big 3. Well, Tim Hardaway has to play like that consistently. He has to help take the load off of Luka, off of Kristaps. He has to be a guy, him and Seth Curry, both have to be guys. Between them, that's averaging at least 25 points between them. Both of them cannot score under double digits. It just cannot happen. It cannot happen. It just flat out can't. They both have to be guys to get buckets. When one of them is off, the other has to be on. But honestly, they both have to be on to give them a fighting chance. But between them, they have to score at least 20 to 25 points. Then they got a guy named Finley Smith in their style lineup who's their best defender, most versatile defender. I don't know if he's going to be guarding Paul George or Kawhi. Either way, he has to make it tough for them on the defensive end and on the offensive end. He has to hit some open shots. Then the bench of the Mavericks, they just had to play consistent and give them a fighting chance. They got Trey Burke, who in my opinion, Philly should never let go. They should have never let him go. They got guys coming off their bench. You got Wright. You got Boban. They have guys coming off their bench. Great head coach in Rick Carlisle. But in order for them to have a chance, They have to play picture perfect because their defense is something that is not that good compared to a lot of championship level teams. Their defense is not that good. Their offense, however, is one of the best offense we ever seen in the league. So if they play, and they're great on offense, they're going to have a chance. But I do see the Clippers winning this series in 6 or 7. The Mavericks going to win some games now. Luka's going to have some crazy performances. Kristaps going to have some crazy performances. That's without doubt. Because they did it all season. They did it in a bubble. But the Clippers had that advantage, and I do see the Clippers winning this series. The Denver Nuggets versus the Utah Jazz. I see the Nuggets winning 5 or 6. I do. For the Jazz, Mike Conley is out with the birth of his son. He's left the bubble. Ed Davis is out with MCL injury. Mike Conley plans on returning at a later date and could make later stages of the Denver versus Utah series, but I don't see it going to later stages. You're not there, bro. I understand you're there for the birth of your son. Nobody's mad at that. But if he's not there, I don't really see this Jazz team having a chance. He was a big factor in why they went to double overtime. He had a very good game. Without him, Donovan Mitchell is going to have to shoot more. He's already a gunner. He's going to have to shoot more, make more. He's going to have so much on his plate. It's just not going to be enough. It's not. Like, they already have to score more without having Bogdanovich there. Shoot more threes without having Bogdanovich there. So it's just like, I don't see them having a chance. I don't. Jokic and Rudy Gobert is going to be a great matchup, you know. Jokic is probably going to get the better end of the deal because he's a better player. So it's like, yeah, Nuggets in 5 or 6. Jamal Murray, this is going to be good for him to get his legs back, you know, to get back in better shape so they can try to make a run. So I see Jamal Murray playing a lot. MPJ is going to be good for him, get some playoff experience to help them make a run. Hopefully that their players that are injured, Will Barton, Gary Harris, I don't know the status on them off the top of my head, but, you know, hopefully they're looking to return. And if they get this series out the way fast, which is going to be very possible now without Mike Conley and Ed Davis, if they get their series over fast, hopefully those guys can return back to the lineup. Because if you add those guys back into the already stacked Nuggets team, people are sleeping on the Nuggets, bro. They're sleeping on the Nuggets. I know they don't have the names. They don't have the names that the Clippers bench has or the Clippers roster has, but they're just as deep. They're just as deep as that. They got some younger guys. You got Grant. You got Ogier. You got Craig. You got Morris. They got guys now, quality guys, that were forced to start because of injuries, coming off the bench, putting in work. You got Millsap, who's a veteran. You got MPJ, who's showing the world, which I already knew because he's been doing this since high school, how good he is. Then you led by Jokic and Murray, with a very good head coach in Malone. They can get this out the way. And they can get prepared to make a run because I think they can make a run. That's all I'm going to say. I'm only doing first round predictions, but I do think they can make a run. Now the last series, 4 or 5 matchup, you got the Rockets versus the Thunder. Now Russell Westbrook is expected to miss the first game. That might be it. Hopefully it is it. I do not wish injuries on nobody, especially a guy as talented as Russell Westbrook. So hopefully he can come back healthy. He's expected to miss 1 game. Like I said, I hope it's not more than that. But if it is, this series can go 7. And honestly, I see it going to 6 or 7. The Thunder can go small ball too, just like the Rockets. They already have a 3-guard lineup that goes crazy. And Dennis Schroeder. And Gildas Alexander. And Chris Paul. Then you got Gallinari, who can play the big if they go small. Or they could just keep Adams there, and that's probably going to be the end of the game lineup because Adams is a guy that can control the paint. Rockets, for some reason, don't want to play with no big man. That's on them. That's how they, made their lineup for them so they can succeed in the best way possible. That's cool. They've been winning games like this. Understand. But at the end of the day, it's hard for me to pick the Rockets over a team that has a dominant big. Now, Adams isn't really dominant on the offensive end. He's dominant on the defense and rebounding. So I do see him going crazy on the rebounds. I do. But he can't really take advantage of a lot of mismatches because his game really isn't dominating the paint. He can hit some post hooks. He can do a couple drop steps, get to the free throw line. Well, he's aggressive a little bit, but everybody knows he's not an offensive player. But with that being said, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been my guy since he was in Kentucky. And the dude will flat out ball this series. Chris Paul. We all know what type of guy Chris Paul is. This is going to be a revenge series for him. So I honestly think Chris Paul is going to go crazy. He's going to go crazy, like passing-wise, scoring-wise, taking over in the fourth quarter, taking over throughout the game. He's going to go crazy. Right? Gallinari, 6'8", 6'9", I believe, can score the ball. Always been one of the guys I've been high on in this league because I think he's a good basketball player. He had some injury problems, but now he's been healthy, and the dude's been giving you about 18, 19, 20 a night. He's going to have a good series. Then there's Schroeder, coming off the bench, playing key minutes for them. Guy who's in a run for 6 man a year, won't be surprised if he gets it averaging about 18 and 4. He's a problem. Their bench, they play to their role. They don't have the names, but they play to their role. They know their role. You look at the Rockets, you know what the Rockets are. Small ball, going to try to shoot a ton of threes and get to the free throw line. Don't shoot no mid-ranges. If it's not a layup or a dunk, a free throw or a three-pointer, they're probably not going to attempt it. So you know what you're getting from both teams. It's going to be tough. I got it going 6 or 7. I'm saying 7 because of the fact that Russell Westbrook injury. But I think the Rockets can pull it out. Now, honestly, will not be surprised if this Thunder team wins. I won't. It's just that type of series, that type of matchup. And you never know what to expect with this Rockets team. You don't. If the Thunder can take advantage of Russell Westbrook injury and win the key games when he's not there, when he's not having the nights that we're accustomed to him to having, if they can take advantage of that, they can win this series. It's going to be hard. It is going to be hard, but it is possible. It is possible. But those are my predictions for the first round. I was only predicting the first round. Let me reiterate that. I'm only predicting the first round. As each round goes, I will predict the series for that round. And at the end, hopefully, my playoff bracket was correct. I have it all written down in front of me. But yes, like I said, I'll predict as each round goes. So for the West, I have the Lakers in 5 or 6. I have the Clippers in 6 or 7. The Nuggets in 5 or 6. And the Rockets in 6 or 7. Now, I think all these, most of these series can go an extra game or a shorter game. You never know with the NBA. Some teams have off nights. Some teams have great nights. But, 6 or 7, 5 or 6 is what I can expect. Now, this Nuggets, without Mike Conley, I think it probably can go 5. The Lakers can probably cut it down to 5. The Rockets can probably cut it down to 6 or 7. So can the Clippers, but you never know. These are all good ball clubs. That's why they're all in the playoffs. Most of these teams match up well against each other. A lot of these teams have firepower, so you just never know. In the East, I have the Bucks sweeping the Magic. I have the Raptors in 5. I don't know with this. I'm going with the Sixers. But like I said, I think it can go either way. I'm going with the Sixers in 6 or 7. If the Sixers win, it's probably going to go 7. And I have the Heat in 6. Those are my first round predictions for each matchup. They're all going to be good matchups now. The playoffs is here. We're not going to see a bad series, except for 1-8 and 2-7 in the East. I'm still going to watch those, though, because I'm excited basketball's here. But other than that, each playoff series will be competitive and must-watch television. Now today, Monday, August 17th, at 1:30, you have the Utah Jazz versus the Denver Nuggets. 4 o'clock, the Nets versus the Raptors. 6:30, the Sixers versus the Celtics. And 9 o'clock, the Mavericks versus the Clippers. Now for the 1:30 game, I have the Nuggets. For the 4 o'clock game, I have the Raptors. 6:30, game 1. Game 1, I'm leaning towards the Sixers right now. 6:30 matchup between the Sixers and the Celtics. I'm leaning towards the Sixers. And 9 o'clock between the Clippers and Mavs. I'm going with the Clippers to win game. No, I'm going with the Mavericks to win game 1. I'm going with the Mavericks to win game 1. If they want to establish themselves in the series, I feel like game 1 is the best game to do it. Tuesday's games. 1:30. The Magic versus the Bucks. I have the Bucks. 4 o'clock. The Heat versus the Pacers. I have the Heat. 6:30. The Thunder versus the Rockets. I have the Thunder. With Russell Westbrook being out, this is the perfect game for them to win. Now, honestly, with him being out, James Harden can have a crazy night. A crazy night, which I will not be surprised if he does. But right now, I'm going with the Thunder. Then 9 o'clock, the Trailblazers versus the Lakers. I'm going with the Lakers. Now, it's going to be a good game. I don't know if the Trailblazers are out of gas. But for them, if they want to win a game, it had to be game 1 for them. But I'm going with the Lakers. It's all going to be good games, though. And like I said, the games are being played every other day. So you got 4 games on Monday, 4 games on Tuesday. Then it's going to be 4 on Wednesday, 4 on Thursday, and 4 on Friday. But those are my predictions for Monday and Tuesday's games. Now, they can go, some of them can go either way. Rockets and Thunder can go either way. Trailblazers and Lakers, I'm going with the Lakers, but the Trailblazers have been playing very good basketball of late. So I don't know if they're out of gas, but if they're not, and they're still hitting on all cylinders, Trailblazers could pull out, a game 1 victory. Bucks versus Magic, that can not go either way. The Bucks are winning. You look back at Monday, Nuggets and Jazz, I don't think that can go either way. But the games that can go either way on Monday, the Sixers versus Celtics, which I'm taking the Sixers, at 6:30 on ESPN. Then 9 o'clock, the Mavericks versus the Clippers, I'm taking the Mavs, but it can go either way. Like I predicted when I did my matchup predictions, my series predictions. A lot of these games, I think are going 6 or 7. They can go either way any single game. But like I said multiple times, it's playoff basketball. Everybody better be glued to their TV because this is must-watch TV. I'm glad that we got basketball back. I'm excited to watch these games today and tomorrow. I hope everybody's excited like I am that playoff basketball is back. The seeding games were fun and all. Those games were fun. But now we get to see playoff basketball. Intensity to a whole nother level. And it's going to be fun watching it in a bubble. Now I wonder who you guys think are going to win, today's games, tomorrow's games. But also, who you think is going to win this first round matchups? Who you think is going to win between the Lakers and the Blazers, the Nuggets and the Jazz, the Sixers and the Celtics? I'd like to hear you guys' opinions. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at sportsw_Chris. sportsw_Chris. Thank you all for listening and stay tuned for future episodes.